So folks, let's move to valuation. How to value a company. Before we talk about how to value a company, let's define a little bit our terminology. And that's what we're talking about here in this video. It's equity versus entity value. It turns out when we ask the question, what is the value of a given company? There is more than one value. There are different kinds of values. And this is what I want to show you here with this slide. And it's actually the only slide we're going to be having in this video here. So we're going to be spending some minutes here to understand the different terms of valuing a business. So when most people talk about the value of a company, what they actually refer to is the so-called market capitalization. This is what we have here. So that's a discussion of what is the most valuable company of the world. And people then immediately talk about Apple and Amazon, remembering that they just jumped to $1 trillion and then to $2 trillion. Amazing numbers there. That is very easy to calculate because you know the value of one share, you know more or less how many shares are outstanding. So you can calculate what people call the market capitalization, which is also called net enterprise value or equity value. Now keep in mind, equity value, we're talking here about the market value of the equity. This has nothing to do with the balance sheet because we do know the value of a company depends on the assumptions about the future. It's all about future, whereas your balance sheet, the equity there, is something of the past. So when we talk about valuation now, it's future, future, future. However, when we talk about this net value, obviously there must be a gross value as well. And this is important to understand because whenever we now discuss what is the value of the company we're looking at, we need to differentiate between gross and net. And let me maybe illustrate that in very simple terms by talking about my car. Let's assume I own a Volkswagen Golf. And let's assume you want to buy my Volkswagen Golf. Well, we have sat down, looked at my Golf, and we found out that a car which is as old as my Golf is currently worth, let's say, $10,000. So here we go. These $10,000, this would be difficult to write here on this PC, but I hope you can see this. This is a one. This will be the $10,000 the car is actually worth. This is what people would actually call the gross value of the company. Now, let's find out the difference between net and gross. Well, when I purchased my Volkswagen Golf, I actually purchased it with the help of a loan from the Volkswagen Bank. And the Volkswagen Bank gave me this loan. In the meantime, I have actually paid back part of the loan. But let's assume at the moment that the loan, which is currently still sitting on this car, is roughly $6,000. So we would have a $6,000 here as the loan. So obviously, if you would have to buy my car, this loan is tied to the car. You would have to accept that this loan goes with the car. So what does that mean? If the market value of this car currently is $10,000, you would not give me $10,000. You would give me less. How much less? Well, if you know that you would have to take over this loan of $6,000, then you would only give me $4,000. So that would mean the $4,000 here. This is really what we're talking about in terms of net enterprise value. So 4,000 plus the 6,000 gives again the 10,000. Now the same applies to companies. If you buy all the shares of Daimler, the owner of Mercedes-Benz, after having purchased all the shares, you're not only proud owner of half of Stuttgart, you're also proud owner of double-digit billion of debt. So here again, in the case of Daimler, we would look at the market capitalization, that's the net value. Then we would actually add to it the debt you have to take over when you purchase the company, and this would give you the gross number. This is very important that you know the difference between the two, because if you see the way, in particular professionals, finance professionals, value businesses, value companies, they oftentimes start off determining the gross value and then deducting from it the debt to get the net value. Now, let's add one more level of complexity to that. Let's assume in my Volkswagen Golf, I actually have $1,000, one $1,000 bill lying in the glove department. Why is that? Because I'm a quick driver and I do know when the police stops me, I want to go on riding very quickly, so I usually bribe them with $1,000 and then I can go on. So this $1,000 I will leave in my car. So if you are a normal driver who isn't caught by the police that often, you can just take this $1,000 off. And what could you do with it? You could actually immediately pay back the $1,000 to the Volkswagen Bank, and this would reduce the net debt from $6,000 to $5,000. So you can see here, when we talk about the debt of $6,000, it says here net debt. And net debt is exactly this, that when you buy a company, on the one hand, you get, unfortunately, the debt of the company. But the company might have certain assets, which you are saying, we don't need those assets to run the show. Excess cash. So this is something which you would then deduct from this debt in there. So think about, very practically, Apple. We know the market cap of Apple. Do we know the debt of Apple? Yes, we can look that up in their balance sheet. But we do know that Apple has lots of cash on the left side of the balance sheet, and they could take this debt, take this cash and pay back the debt actually, so that the net debt is significantly lower actually in the case of Apple compared to what you see on the right side of the balance sheet in here. So whenever we now value a business, we have to take into account exactly this question. What is the debt of the company? And is there something on the left side of the balance sheet which we can use to retire part of this debt? Let's define maybe as a final step debt in a bit more detail. Debt is not only obviously the loan which I have in my Volkswagen Golf. If you go to the real world, obviously in particular Germanic environments, we have as debt pension liabilities. Lots of companies have lots of leasing liabilities. So you have to have a comprehensive view when you buy a company of all the liabilities which you actually incur by taking over this company. And if you know, for example, how pension liabilities are determined, there are some assumptions which go into that. It's not that straightforward as a bank loan, which you see on the right side of the balance sheet with the amount you owe to the bank. With pension liabilities, you have to make some tricky assumptions on how much Lufthansa, for example, owes its flight captains in order to find out what the true amount of debt is they have. So that's why this red block we have here, determining the right amount of debt, oftentimes in transactions, that can become pretty tricky, because people can't agree really on the assumptions which are needed to determine actually the value of the debt. All right, so now we know the difference between gross and net, which will allow us now to move into the question of, hey, what are the different methodologies to actually value a business? That's going to be the topic of the next video.